yes, my sins are gone. Now my soul is free and in my heart's a song, buried in the deepest sea. Yes, that's good enough for me. I shall live eternally, praise God. My sins are gone, 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 gone. Yes, my sins are gone. Gone, 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 gone. Yes, my sins are gone. Now my soul is free and in my heart's a song, buried in the deepest sea. Yes, that's good enough for me. I shall live eternally, praise God. My sins are gone, 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 gone. Yes, my sins are gone. 66 books in God's holy word, telling the story of Jesus my Lord. Books of the Bible I know so well, books of the Bible I love to tell. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, Kings, Chronicles and Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, the ex-Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, Timothy, Titus, Philemon and Hebrews, James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st and 2nd John, 3rd John, Jude and Revelation. 66 books in God's holy word, telling the story of Jesus my Lord. Books of the Bible I know so well, books of the Bible I love to tell. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, Kings, Chronicles and Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, the ex-Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, Timothy, Titus, Philemon and Hebrews, James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st and 2nd John, 3rd John, Jude and Revelation.
And now for a testimony.
Hi, my name's Jaden, and as you all probably already know, I grew up in a Christian family. Because of that, I was exposed to the Bible and its teachings pretty much since birth. I remember thinking that my family had this Christianity because my dad was a pastor, and that was the only reasoning that I needed as a child. But that train of thought didn't last long. I can remember Dad asking me a question. He asked me this: would you rather be born twice or die twice? I can remember thinking that Dad must have been crazy, but nevertheless I pondered the question. I can remember thinking about the question in a very literal way. I was thinking about having to go back into my mum's womb. That was silly, so I just put the question aside and ignored it, and that was that. But one day, about 2 weeks before my 6th birthday, Dad called me upstairs, because we lived in a 2-story house back in Mildura, and he asked me the same question again. I was thinking that he was just being weird again, but then he started to explain. He took out a small folder that said The Romans Road. It looked like an interesting little book, and it had lots of pictures, so I was hooked. He showed me an interesting concept. He said that it was impossible for a human to live without ever sinning or doing a wrong deed. There was a picture of a man hanging on to a chain. The picture explained that each link in the chain was one of the 10 Commandments, and how it only takes one link breaking to cause the man to fall. In the same way, it only takes one sin to send a man to hell. There was a verse that went with that picture. That verse was James chapter 2, verse 10. For whosoever shall keep the whole law, and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. Dad then led me to Romans 3:10, which says, there is none righteous, no, not one. And then again to John 14:6, which says, Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. He then went on to explain that the wages of sin is death, and not only death, but hell, which is the second death. So that was where I was headed. I was starting to see why he asked the original question of dying twice or being born twice. He then explained how Jesus came as the perfect man without sin or fault, and how he died for the sins of the entire world, and then he rose again. As the son of a pastor, I had heard all of this stuff before, but it never quite fell right into place. Dad then put in the last piece of the puzzle in by explaining how I don't have to go to hell. All I needed to do was accept the gift of salvation that Jesus had already provided, and that if I did, then I'd be able to be born again as a child of God. So that's what I did. Dad and I prayed together, and then Dad asked me if I meant what I'd said when I prayed. And I said that I did, and that was that. I can remember asking him if I was saved now, and he answered me with a question of if I meant what I had said again. I was sure that I had meant what I said, so I ran downstairs to Mum and I gave her a big hug and I told her I was saved now. She was as excited as I was, and I felt pretty good about myself. But it didn't take me long after that to have all of these doubts in my head about things like, what if God wasn't real? What if we chose the wrong religion? What if I hadn't meant what I said when I prayed that prayer? I'd also heard about there having to be a definite change in the new believer's life. And I thought that my life didn't change about that much since I was saved because my conduct was taught by 2 Christian parents. So I prayed about it, and again I felt that I was saved. But those doubts stayed with me until I was about 11 or 12 living in Melbourne. And that's when I realised some key truths about salvation. Firstly, I heard a sermon on the fact of salvation and not the feeling of salvation. It was a solid fact whether or not I was saved, and it really didn't matter if I felt like I wasn't, because our feelings change every day. And another key truth is that I wasn't going to have an assurance of salvation if I didn't ever even read my Bible. We were always asked to read our Bible in the morning before school, but there was something in me that just didn't want to. So I wouldn't do it unless I was expressly asked. After I realised the truth about an assurance of salvation, I wanted to read and I wanted to learn, but there was still a constant battle every morning whether or not I was going to read and study the Bible. But the more I did, the more of a foundation I had with which to fight the doubts that would come. Sometimes when I had sinned, I would have those doubts of whether God would forgive me or not, but at least I had some kind of defense against those doubts. So I have since decided that I'd let God direct my life. It was very difficult when I found out that we'd be moving to Sydney, away from all the friends I had met while being in Melbourne. I knew that I was definitely going to be moving, and it was scary knowing that there was going to be a whole new church with new people at every turn, and it really tested me in my trust in God. I'm not really one of those people that think, oh, new people means new friends. So it scared me, but I left it with the Lord, and He has led me to meeting new people and being able to serve in the church. Not only that, He has also allowed me to go to TAFE and be a witness there as well. As I finish up, I just want to encourage others, if they feel like the Lord is leading them, to share a testimony. It is not only encouraging to listen to someone's testimony, but it's even more encouraging to give your own account of what God has done in your life and see how He has brought you to where you are now.
God can do anything, anything, anything. God can do anything but fail. He can save, He can keep, He can cleanse, and He will. God can do anything but fail. He's the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. He's the fairest of 10,000 to my soul. God can do anything, anything, anything. God can do anything but fail. God can do anything, anything, anything. God can do anything but fail. He can save, He can keep, He can cleanse, and He will. God can do anything but fail. He's the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. He's the fairest of 10,000 to my soul. God can do anything, anything, anything. God can do anything but fail.